What's up, everybody? Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the debt that was released. I got an email yesterday, credit card debt. I'm going to talk about success, change. I think it's time that I brought that back into the videos, and I'll put a timestamp just in case you don't want to hear it. You know, some of you not ready for that yet. And then we're going to go into the question and answers section. In my last video, I did one on helping people to increase their credit scores. And someone got kind of upset, and they thought that that's my true motive of having this channel. And that I took exception to it, not in a way that was against that person, because I mean, that person, I value everyone's opinion, but I do what I want to do. And number one, just so everyone knows this, there's a lot of people here on YouTube, and they're not who they portray themselves to be. That's one of the things that online and websites and YouTube and all of these different social media platforms is that a lot of people, some people are not who they portray themselves to be. And let me just set it straight here about my company. And for you that don't care to hear this, you could go to the next section of the video. I'm putting a timestamp. But I want this to the people to know who I am. I'm a businessman. I have employees full time, and I pay all of them a livable wage and above. I treat them with respect. Some are from our community and some are not from our community. I'm an equal opportunity employer. I don't discriminate. One thing that I do is that, especially for people in our community, but I do this across the board. But one of the biggest things that I always keep to the forefront of my mind is that, and it's because I went through it when I was in the Army. I went through it when I first got out of the Army before I started my company in 1990, my first company. I went through discrimination where when I was right out of the Army, 20 years old, and I went to work as a security guard for a college. I was working third shift, and this was before I started my publishing company. And because I was always gung ho, when I work for somebody, I'm going to work hard for them. And this security guard company had just got the contract at that school, at that college. And everyone that came in was at the same rank except for the manager of all of us, because he was part of the company already. And I said, after working the job for a few months, I said, how can I, move up in this? Because I'm always wanting to do better. And he told me I need to take a test. He said, you're doing an excellent job. You just need to take a test. You pass the test, you'll get your bars. They were like putting bars on you, like when I was in the Army. And so I took the test, passed it, and because no one else at the time even cared about that, they were just coming to work. There was about 20 of us at different shifts. And so I passed the test, and I was like, okay, I did everything to get promoted, and I didn't get promoted. And then all of a sudden, this older white guy that I was real good friends with, all of a sudden, he came around, and he said, they're letting me take a test. And I was like, yeah, I took that test, so we're going to both get promoted. And then all of a sudden, after he took the test, the next week he got promoted. And then I was like, they promoted him because he was going to be in charge. I would have been in charge of everybody because the manager just came and checked in. I would have been in charge of everybody. 20 years old, maybe they thought I was too young, but so they promoted him. He was an older person. He was probably in his 30s or 40s, and then they said that they were gonna let everyone that they thought was qualified to take the test, and then they was gonna promote the next person that would be a captain. And uh, and then all of a sudden, all of those other guys took the test, and then they called us in the room, and then they said that I got promoted, and everybody was like, "Okay, he got promoted," but they didn't know the backstory of how all of this had happened. Like, actually, what they did is they put that person in charge, so they would be in charge over me and them, and then they, in a way, just promoted me, so I would be happy, and then I'm in charge of them. And I bring that story up because for you that are not in the African American community or some of the so-called, I don't say minority communities, I just say that's in a community of color, is that this happens a lot where some people can't accept a certain person being in charge of them. And you know, a lot of people know that. Like, even when Obama was president, a lot of people just couldn't accept that he was president of the United States, because subconsciously they've been trained that only certain people were in charge. And so I made it a point that when I got into the position of owning my own company, is that number one, I would not discriminate against people. I would, if a person was, uh, did a great job, they were going to get promoted no matter what color they are. But also something that I had saw with companies, and what I've heard from people and what I experienced even in the military, is that people that come from different communities experience different things. One of the things that I experience a lot with my companies being in the black community is that there's some issues between couples, issues with kids, childcare, things that when they work for other companies they don't understand because they're not from our community. They don't understand it, and they don't understand the way that we relate. And so I wanted to make it a point that when people came and they worked for me, that I would not just try to be like I'm just this big boss or whatever, that I would remember my experiences, remember my own family experiences, because I know that my family, being black, grew up totally different from people that are in the white community. They talk different, uh, go through things, frustrations, and things are totally different. So I want to make sure. And there has been times where people that work for my company that I know, if they experience what they went through and then they came to work with that attitude at another, predominantly one of the other companies not from our community, that's ran by people not from our community, they would fire them right on the spot. And so I run a business, and I put stuff here on YouTube to generate business. I put stuff on here on YouTube to teach you how to manage your way with credit, with debt, with life. And that's why I make the channel. And if and I have to generate business to be able to pay people. Uh, I don't do things for charity. I think a lot of people in our community have done things for charity, and we have paid a price for it, because you can't pay employees, you can't hire people in your community if you're going to be a charity business. I don't take charity. I do business and give products and services to people so I can pay myself and pay my employees and take care of expenses, pay taxes, all of that stuff. And I think that sometimes people, when people hear things like that, or they hear it from people that they're not used to hearing it from, they have a problem with accepting change. They have a problem with accepting success. When there was a story that I think I told you, or I maybe told it when I was giving a speech, is that when I was younger, 15, 60 years old, I saw those real estate commercials, and I wanted to be rich in real estate, and I convinced my grandmother to buy one of the programs. She took the money. There was some money set aside for all of us grandchildren from property that my grandmother sold. My grandmother was a very good business person, but she gave all of us $2,500, and now that it was a lot of us. And she gave all of her kids. She have 8 children, $25,000 each, and she took that money, which I wasn't supposed to get till I was 18. She took it out and said, "Here, get the real estate program because I know you're going to be successful. I see it and I don't want to stop it. I know if I keep encouraging you and keep supporting you, you're going to be successful." So she got me that real estate program. I went through it. It was a piece of trash. I think it was like 500 and some bucks. It was junk. It, outdated information, but I had to have it. Later in life, I met this Spanish guy, and he taught me real estate face to face. Like, he put a tape recorder. We're talking back in 1987. Tape recorder. I was 17 years old at that time. Tape recorder, and he taught me how to buy and sell real estate. He recorded it, so if I needed to ask questions, there was a workbook. He told me, as I'm talking, you write in the workbook. If you have a question, you ask me. We're recording it, you're writing it, I'm in your face. He took me around, showed me how to do it. He did all of that stuff. I paid $1,500 to him to do that out of that money. And what did I do with that? I didn't do anything with it at that time. And I remember going into his office before I went into the army, and he had I didn't let him know I was going into the army, and he had said, what are you about to do? I didn't taught you the real estate. Have you done a deal yet? And he was expecting me to have either made a deal or brought him a deal or something. And I said, no, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. And he said, what are you going to do? Join the army? And I didn't even answer him. I had already joined. I had already joined the army. And I bring up that story because sometimes you are not ready for success. And it's because subconsciously you can't allow yourself to accept it. So when someone tells you something good, someone gives you instruction, and I'm bringing that up from that video that I made about how to boost your credit scores. When someone gives you instruction and subconsciously you, for some reason, you don't even know why, you just blurt out something. It's because deep down inside, you have not released the pain and you're not ready for success. At that time, that is what I was going through. I was not ready for success. There was a pain deep down inside of me that I did not release. And I've discovered what that pain was. The pain was is that I didn't truly believe in myself. That's what that pain was, and I had to release that. I had to give that up to understand that I am good enough as I am. And that's what I try to teach people on this channel, is that you're not going to repair your credit. You're not going to increase your scores. You're not going to have success and get out of debt until you believe that you are good enough to have that type of life. And when someone tries to help you and you for some reason, you only see the negative in what they're trying to help you with, that is something deep down inside of you that you need to release and get out, because you are the one that have to deal with that. Some of the times when people make comments, like they call me, I'm not even going to say some of the names because they might take away this video if I said the names. They are really reflecting on themselves. And even for myself, when I say something or, think something of someone, that's not really a them, that's some deep reflecting on myself. And what I do is I immediately fix it, I correct it, and I change it, and I see them as good. And that's what all of us have to do. And that's very hard, because you'll see what you're made of when you try to do that. When you try to say, I want Steve Williams to do better, however he's doing now, to even do better. And if you see someone that's rich, you see someone that's doing well, that's healthy, and you wish for them to do bad, you're reflecting that onto yourself. That is actually your deep down inside telling you this is what you think about yourself, and you need to release that out of yourself. You may be thinking you're talking about somebody else, but you're actually talking about yourself. Some of you are not going to understand that, but one day you will. I understand it. I'm 51 years old. It took me a long time to understand that. So now let's get into the debt that's released into the market. And let me put the timestamp, 18. Debt released into the market, a batch of mixed credit cards, 4.2 million. I don't know if this is a re-release, but I'm just going off of today's email. 1,630 accounts, $2,586 is the average. Charge-off date 2000. This is all past statute of limitations. So I'm going to repeat, just in case you're new to the channel. When you get, what's going to happen is these debts are going to be sold to a debt collector for pennies on the dollar. And what you have to immediately do, don't disregard that letter when you get it. You need to respond to that letter, and first do some homework before you respond to it. First thing you need to do, get your credit reports, look in the comments section, and look at when that debt was charged off. You, on the letter that they send you, they will let you know who the original creditor is from that debt. When you see you see the date that it was originally charged off, then you need to go and get the statute of limitations for contract law in your state and see what the statute of limitations is for debt contract law in your state. It's different for every state. You can go to my website to check it out. Go to my blog. It's at the bottom. Click the blog. Type in the search bar statute of limitations. Once you know that it's past statute of limitations for your state, you simply just have to notify the debt collector that you know that they're trying to collect the debt that is past the statute of limitations for your state. I simply just say this, put who sent you the letter, the debt collector. This is to inform you that the debt you're attempting to collect is past the statute of limitations for contract law in my state. I demand or request that you cease all collection activity, or I will report you to the proper authorities in my state. The proper authorities in your state is in the Department of Financial Institution, the State Attorney General's office, and whoever regulates the debt collectors or the banking businesses in your state. They usually are combined in the same department. So that's what you have to do. So now I'm going to go into the questions and answers. And what I'm going to do to make it easier for you is I'm going to pause the video and then come back and then answer them that way. Okay, and so with that, that'll 10 times out of 10, that'll make that go away. So now here, the first question was, or comment was about one of my videos where I talked about with Credit Karma not having true scores. That video was made a while back, and Since then, the free credit reporting websites have cleaned up their scores. The only thing that they haven't cleaned up is they don't give you everything that you need, all of the information that you're going to need to repair your credit. Uh, that's going to take more of a pull to get more data, and that costs them more money, even though some of them are ran by the bureaus. Like Credit Karma is ran by TransUnion. That's why you'll see a lot of stuff that you'll see on your reports if you're paying for paid monitoring service. You'll see it on your TransUnion, but you won't see it on the other one that they provide, I believe, which is Equifax. So in that video, I had stated that that their scores were different, and they do vary because some of the times they pull in recordings, reporting on different days. But Credit Karma has cleaned that up. The scores are matching up with what we're seeing with the other monitoring services. It's just that they don't have all of the data that you're going to need if you're trying to repair your credit. Next question here is one about cell phone bill. The person said that they had an old cell phone bill, wasn't reported on their credit reports. Collection agency has it, and they're wondering should they just make an arrangement so they don't have to go through anything. And what you should do is, number one, you should still validate the debt with them. You have it, since you just got the letter, send them a validation asking them to make sure that you owe that debt. But also before that, and I just mentioned it earlier, is you need to make sure that that debt is not past statute of limitations for your state. And also for cell phone bills, there is a special statute of limitations. It's only 2 years across the board for utilities. It's a special statute of limitations, and I've been meaning to add that into here, and I'm glad that you sent that and reminded me of it. Well, when you asked that question, it brought it back to my forefront of my mind. Cell phone bills have a federal 2-year statute of limitations. So look at the bill, look at when it originally was, either if it's not on your credit reports charged off, you got to remember when you originally had that cell phone company. And if it was past 2 years, you can even if you don't know for sure if it was past 2 years, but it wasn't like 6 months or recently where you was just with that company, I would still submit to them that it is past statute of limitations under the federal guidelines for communications, utilities type debts, cable bills, cell phone bills, utilities, 2 years. Submit that to them and see what comes back. Maybe they'll give you documentation proving that it is not past the statute of limitations for that. Okay, this one here, person had a repo and it's stating incorrect on their Equifax. It's saying last payment was in 2016, but they know the repo happened in 2015. This is something that when I was telling you what I'm seeing a lot of in a previous video, I had mentioned that the collection agencies are cheating on the credit reports. They're doing two things that I'm seeing which tries to get around the statute of limitations. Is they are one is to get past statute of limitations. The other one is to not pay as much money to have stuff reported on the bureaus, but they want it reported on all three. So first one, number one, is what they're doing is they're putting all of the information on one bureau, everything about the collection, and then they're just putting their name on the other two. And that's because when they upload to Metro, which goes to all of the bureaus, when you use that, you pay by data, by line. So the more lines of data you input into the credit bureau's reports, the more they're going to charge you. So one, I say scheme that they're using is to just put the collection agency name on the top of two of them and all of the data on the other, and they're just hoping that whoever's reading your reports will look at that and say, okay, that's on all three. They can't do that. They have to have all the data on all three. And every time we've submitted, they've wiped it away because they're doing that. That's inaccurate report and they're cheating. The other thing is they're putting it on there in green as though you're making payments. This is a way that they're using to reauthorize a debt, to make it like you've been paying on it so they can make that statute of limitations go further. What you should immediately do is you should submit to them that this debt is past statute of limitations for your state. You should just proceed the same way that I've always told you to do. And I told you to do it in that video, is to write the letter to them notifying them that it's past statute of limitations for your state and that you want them to cease all collection activity. Okay, this person asked a question. They have a credit card debt and they knew it was from a year ago, so they know that it's not past statute of limitations. And they're just wondering if they set up a payment plan or if they pay it in full, can they get a goodwill letter to have it deleted off of their credit reports? And what you could do is you negotiate that agreement before you do the payment. That's part of your payment arrangement, either in payments or if you pay it in full, you negotiate that from the beginning. But what I also want you to do, and I did write that on the responses, you still need to validate the debt with that debt collector to make sure that they are the owner of the debt, or if they are collecting it for another debt collector, or if they are collecting it for the original credit card company. You need to do that because you don't want to have a situation where you didn't have to pay a debt because they legally couldn't substantiate that you owe the debt. Even though it's in your name, you know you had the card, you still have a right to do what's called a debt validation. The debt validation identifies the three, if it's like I just said before, if it's owned by the original creditor, if it's owned by another debt collection company, or owned by the debt collector that's coming after you. And then they must provide you with all of those statements, your balances, your payment history, interest rate disclosure. That is the law that they must disclose the interest rates and the payoff on every statement, and your original contract, to make sure that there was nothing on that contract, that an insurance that they had that would pay off the debt if it went bad. It could be on there, and you could be paying them money that you shouldn't even pay. Or if they can't provide you all of that documentation and they know it, they know that you know something that other people that they go after don't know, and they could potentially just say, we're not going to go after her because we can't get all of that information from the original creditor that we purchased this from. And then also, if you settle a debt and you didn't get that negotiated at the beginning, you can come around and submit that the account is obsolete and that it needs to come off of your credit reports, and that will usually get it off. And if you submit it to the collection agency, they will usually not respond, and that would allow it to come off of your credit reports. All right, so I think that'll do it for today. I don't want to go too long. I'll answer more questions, probably make another video tomorrow or Friday. And but before I go, please like the video. I really appreciate that. That helps people learn more about the channel. Please comment, ask your questions, share it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. And also, if you need deferments, like there's some of the companies are playing games where they're not trying to get the deferments, but you have a right to get deferments, but they're going to make you earn it. They're going to make you earn it. They're going to make you jump through hoops. But if you do it the right way, you can save your money, and then you won't have to play catch up when you get to that point. You'll just start making your payments, and hopefully by that time everything is more back to normal. So if you need help with your credit, please visit thecreditrepairshop.com. If you need your credit reports and scores, I really appreciate it if you go to our website, the number three scores.com. And until next time, this is Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. Thank you.